Hi, everyone. We're going to start here shortly. We're going to give it a few seconds for additional attendees to join. Well, I think we're good. Well, welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Adenovich, the Solutions Architect Manager for Cybersyn and your host for today's webinar. With me today is Seth Cousins. I'll pause here and I'll let Seth introduce himself.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Seth Cousins, Product Manager at Cireson. I look forward to going through today's webinar with you.
Well, thanks, Seth. Really excited to present the Cybersyn product roadmap today, in which we'll cover what's new with the Cybersyn solutions, what's ahead, as well as what that means to you. I want to cover a couple of housekeeping items first. Post any questions that you have in the GoToWebinar question panel. I believe that's on the right-hand side of your screen. At least it is on my screen here. And if you post those questions, Seth and I carved out some Q&A time at the end of today's webinar. If you stump us with a question or we run out of time, we will follow up via email, so no worries on that. I am recording today's webinar. That will be published by our marketing department in a day or two. Don't know exactly when, but it'll be out there. And more than likely, they're going to publish that out on YouTube, possibly Vimeo. You may want to check both, but just a little bit of a heads up there. So before we begin, I want to make a quick announcement. Cybersyn released on August 7th. Cybersyn Learning, our new online training platform. If you haven't registered, go out to learning.cybersyn.com. It is free, so we're really excited about that. Again, it is free to the public, so if you haven't registered, please do go out there and register. Our first class is around service management and even covers a few of the Cybersyn applications. The videos that are out there, as I mentioned, there's the Service Manager and Cybersyn applications. I believe that there's well over 12 videos out there. It's like 4 hours of training. So there's plenty of training out there. I did notice that a number of people have completed the training already because, like I said, this came out on August 7th. I encourage those that have completed the training or those that haven't, but when you eventually do, we are continually updating learning.cybersyn.com, so there will be additional training material out there. So again, please do go check on a regular basis. So with that, I'm going to hand the mic back to Seth.
Thanks, Mike. With that, we'll go through what we've done here in 2019. So far in 2019, it's been a busy year. We've released over 100 plus software updates and changes to our various lines of products. Our two core products, Service Manager Portal and Remote Support, have seen the biggest bits of changes. On top of that, we've released a number of new features. A few of these we'll highlight real quick. So we've released the Query Picker for the Service Manager Portal. This is the top community requested feature for the last year. And then we've also released the Cmdb, or the Configuration Item Database Portal. And that is the top 5 community requested feature. That one is a long time coming. It's a very complicated feature, but that's now available. For remote support, we also have released software deployment capabilities. We've added a new script control capability where you can actually add your own predefined scripts that can be utilized by your analysts in various ways. And then we've also added device and user comments in the latest release. Next slide. Thanks, Mike. So for the roadmap for Service Manager Portal, we're taking a quick look at the past and the present, and then we'll touch on the future as well. So back in 2018, we've released a number of new features. So for Q2, we released mobile asset support, control center integration, and our affected user application. The affected user application allowing you to quickly determine when someone calls in, whether they need an incident or service request, and switch between the two. With Q3, we've added manual activity completion pages. This allowed you to complete manual activities in a very user-centric way, and to do it quickly, and even allow people who are not traditionally IT focused to be able to recognize and complete those manual activities. We also added drag and drop attachments, which is pretty straightforward there, and send email improvements, including things like adding address book functionality, being able to look through the database to identify users and their email addresses. We also added a bunch of template capabilities within send email. A lot of great features added in that update. For Q4, we added improved work item headers. So with the work item pages, we have a brand new header page that has widget capabilities. It's also got a new design and new actions that can be triggered from within the header. There's actually more that will be coming to that over the next year as well. We also improved our control center integration, so there's additional control center integration there. We also released our remote support product around this period of time, and that was when we implemented the remote support integration as well. And then we have the Community Incident Portal. The Community Incident Portal is a free incident-based portal built off of the Service Manager Portal, and it no longer requires a license to utilize it. Moving into 2019, we released the improved request offering query picker. This was a query picker control that goes on to your request offering pages, making it cleaner and clearer as to what you're selecting and what has been selected. Also improves the search capabilities. We also added preview feature support, so we can now enable preview features that you can, on your own prerogative, go in and enable during the testing phases of those features if you'd like to test out some of the new and coming functionality. For Q2, we added our dynamic data pages, which is the ability to dynamically sync data out of the Service Manager database to create those tables and items within our Service Manager portal. This allows you to build reports off of that data and even access it utilizing the Cmdb portal. We also released the Cmdb portal at this point in time. And so within that, you can actually go in and edit configuration items from the configuration management database. You can edit them, view them, and build reports on them. And then we also released our advanced request offering with change request template support. So you can now utilize a change request template in that advanced request offering, which allows you to generate a change request from an advanced request offering. Q3, we released support groups for both change requests and manual activities. So those are both supported natively out of the box. You simply have to add your designated enumeration lists and then set those up in the settings, and we will utilize those lists and show those on your various pages for change and manual activities. In Q4, so this quarter, we're looking to release and actively releasing improved RA completion. We also have an improved MA completion. This is the next iteration of the completion pages for both review activities and manual activities, which will add some new functionality and also improve some of the existing functionality and design. And then we're also working on a big feature called Intelligent Global Search. This will replace the search box at the top. It'll be kind of a one-stop shop for your searching as we move forward. Coming soon in Q1 and Q2, we have a number of things targeted. The biggest thing is going to be the improved work item query picker. So this is bringing the query picker changes that were brought in for request offerings and bringing those over into our work item pages. But this is a whole different code set, and so it's really going to require some additional research from you, our users, to understand what additional needs we want to solve outside of what we already have, and then also how it should work and what the look and feel should be. We're not just going to pull the query picker from a request offering over. This will be its own design. And then in Q2, we're working on work item tagging. Whether or not we move forward with that, both of these are under consideration at this time and are in our research phase. So there'll be a lot more information coming out about that and anything else that gets added to Q1 and Q2 over the next several months. Next slide, Mike.
Yep. Thanks, Seth.
I'll leave you with it.
Yep. As Seth mentioned, we have made enhancements to the query picker. Anyone who's worked with Service Manager before and created request offerings with the query picker is so well aware of this view that you see on the screen, which is rather cumbersome. And as Seth mentioned, it was one of the top 5 requests on the community forum. So Cybersyn went ahead and enhanced it. As you can see, we made it much easier for the end user to select query picker results, little simple checkbox there alongside the item that they want to select. Click confirm, and then it brings you back to the request offering page where the selections the end user made are now part of the request offering for the end user to validate. Really, really nice. If they don't like something that they selected, they could just click the little X on the right-hand side of the screen there and add additional items. So really nice addition to the Cybersyn solutions. Cmdb Portal, great solution. It provides the ability to synchronize and bring in out-of-the-box CI classes such as business services, computers, printers, things of that nature. But additionally, you can bring in your own custom CI classes. One of the great things about bringing in those CI classes is that there is an administrative UI to do that. So you don't need to be a programmer or a developer. Additionally, you can create custom forms for the CI data that you're bringing in. If you are not comfortable creating custom forms, that's okay. If you want to bring in your custom CI class, what's really nice is that we will dynamically build a form based on the fields within your custom CI class. Additionally, you can add security as to who has access to these forms as well. And of course, you can add custom tasks to those forms. And because this data is coming into the service management database, that now extends your dashboard reporting capabilities with the Cybersyn Dashboard Designer. So now you could leverage that those custom CI classes that you brought in. So you could definitely really enhance your reporting from that perspective. As Seth mentioned, the AROs for change management. As you know, AROs have been out for quite some time. I think AROs originally came out in 2015, 2016. It's been a while, but when they first came out, they were only applicable to the incident and the service request classes. As Seth mentioned, out on the community, people really wanted AROs for change management. So as Seth mentioned, that's now available. So you can now leverage AROs on change management. So real quick, before I proceed, I want to get a gauge to see who's awake and who's awake and paying attention and who's sleeping here. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll, and I'm curious to know who is still using Service Manager 2012 in their production environment. So I'm gonna leave this poll open for a little bit here until everyone can respond. I'm gonna leave it open for about another 10-20 seconds. It's a pretty quick poll. So, and again, I appreciate everyone's feedback here. Don't be surprised. I'll do a couple more polls a little later on in here as well. I think we're pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this poll. And now I'm going to go ahead and hand the microphone back to Seth there.
Thanks, Mike. So on to remote support. So another one of our core products here is Remote Support Portal. So Q4 2018 was our initial release for remote support. Remote support is the next iteration of our Control Center product. Control Center product was built on technologies, and this is built from the ground up by Cireson on a new technology foundation. So that was our initial release in Q4 of 2018. Since then, we've added software delivery templates and software delivery limits. This is the ability to utilize predefined settings for your teams on how they should be utilizing the software delivery tool. You can also set limits for how those deployments are set. So basically, when you're deploying a piece of software, you can limit the number of users and devices that software can be deployed to based off of your own internal policies. We also added authentication tokens. These authentication tokens allow you to utilize all sorts of third-party tools utilizing our API. You can do reporting utilizing these tokens. You can build in integrations that both read data or write data to the remote support portal. So really the sky's the limit there with that capability. And then in Q2, we released Powershell Scripts. Powershell Scripts we mentioned previously, and that has to do with building custom scripts that can then be utilized by your analysts on your help desk, and you can apply different permissions to those scripts and even hide the script itself and allow them to run it but not necessarily view the contents of it. With entity comments added in Q2, this is the ability to add comments to devices and users. So you can now go in and keep track of how you've edited a user or device, what you've done to them, any particular information that may be needed, say when the computer was deployed or when a particular call or request came in and troubleshooting was required. For Q3, we have custom actions and software requests that were just released, and that is the ability to add your own custom actions utilizing the PowerShell scripts and add them to your remote actions pages within the device management views. And then software requests, that actually is a functionality that's being brought forward from within Configuration Manager. When a user requests a piece of software from within the software center, you can now approve or deny that request directly within remote support. For Q4, we have entity security scoping and third-party session tracking currently in the works, and those will be coming out here within the next several weeks. Looking at Q1, we have Intune integration on the docket. This is under consideration. We're looking at what that would look like, what information would be brought in, and what information and functionality would be most useful to our targeted remote support users. And in Q2, we're looking to bring the same sort of functionality utilizing O365 integration, utilizing the data within there to provide you with some new functionality.
Well, thanks, Seth. So as Seth has mentioned there, we added software deployment, and one of the nice things there is from a user perspective, you have the ability to deploy configuration manager applications or packages. And when it comes to the devices, of course, you can deploy the configman applications and packages. But additionally, you can leverage and deploy task sequences as well. So really, really nice feature there. Additionally, it will create the collection for you if that collection does not exist. And then there are deployment templates that would be applied to that, really streamlining the process there. And as Seth has mentioned, he kind of stole my thunder there a little bit about the PowerShell scripts. He hit the nail on the head. You can provide free-form PowerShell scripts to your different IT analyst, or if you want, you can predefine those PowerShell scripts and then set security as to who has access to those predefined PowerShell scripts. So very, very powerful tool. If you haven't seen or implemented remote support, that's something that you're definitely going to want to do. It's a very powerful tool. So with that said, I'm going to run another poll. So we're going to do another poll here real quick, and just curious to know who's using remote support in their production environment now. Simple questions to answer. The poll should be open if I did things right. Okay, it looks like I did because I could see the votes coming in. I'll leave the poll open for a little bit longer here. Pretty straightforward. Again, I appreciate everyone responding. So this just tells me that you're awake and paying attention. So thank you. Seth and I are just hoping not to bore anyone here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this poll here. Again, thank you for filling that out for me. So we're going to close that poll, and I am going to hand the mic back to Seth.
Thanks, Mike. So last roadmap slide we have for today is our asset management slide. So this is our console asset management product, which also includes functionality that we brought into the Service Manager portal. So it's not truly just console based anymore. But most of the functionality does originate from within Service Manager. So that's what some of these features are focusing on here as we release them. So in 2019, Q1, we released new mobile device views within the console. And this was with the console and the Service Manager portal. This is the ability to view the new mobile device classes that we've added. It's just a subclass of the hardware asset class. It's really just adding some additional mobile device form fields that you see there in the second item, and it's just a new asset type. So we've brought that in so that you can differentiate out your mobile devices, including the features and fields and information that you need for those mobile devices. For Q2, we added some hardware asset notes fields. So this gives you the ability on your hardware assets to add some basic notes. This is a requested feature from within the community, and add some very easy to do note-taking capability on each asset. We also added some new software asset catalog items, so you can now utilize the catalog item functionality for software assets. In Q3, we are currently adding and just released the Excel updates for search by asset type in Excel. So you can now search by asset type, not just the basic search that was included previously. And we've also added a bunch of new fields within that search as well. For Q4, we're looking at adding a software asset usage report and then also a hardware asset service tag, both of these being community requested features. For Q1, we currently have under consideration adding network device locations. This is the idea of being able to relate locations to network devices. This isn't currently possible, so we're investigating this, and this is another community request. And lastly, for Q2, under consideration right now is adding in PO number auto generation. This is something that you'd be able to enable or disable in your own environment. And if you had it enabled, we'd automatically generate the PO number for you upon opening a new PO. And that's it, Mike.
Yep, thanks, Seth. Yeah, Seth had a number of updates, but I only really want to key in on one here, and that's the mobile device tracking here. As Seth mentioned, it's a really nice feature with a lot of conversations with our asset manager, our asset management customers. They wanted to track mobile devices on a more a better level. So one of the things that we've done is added a mobile tab. So if you select the hardware asset type of mobile, one of the nice things is that the mobile tab appears within the hardware asset, providing fields that are relevant to tracking of mobile devices, as you can see, the SIM pin and serial number, IMEI number, CSN number, so forth and so on. So again, information from our customers, the community forum. So keep those suggestions coming. Cybersyn does value that feedback and does leverage that feedback with product enhancements. So with that said, We'll do one last poll, just again to make certain that everyone is still awake. So curious to know how many people are using Cybersyn's asset management in production. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to launch this poll. I see it's working. People are voting. Thank you. Much obliged. So we'll leave this poll open for a few more seconds here. Again, I appreciate everyone responding. So we'll give it about 5 more seconds. And 3, 2, 1. Perfect. I just closed that poll. And now moving on, what's next? So most of you are already familiar with where to acquire the latest versions of the Cybersyn apps. If not, just feel free to go out to downloads.cybersyn.com to download the greatest apps. As I mentioned earlier, Cybersyn released learning.cybersyn.com. It is free. If you haven't registered, feel free, please go out there, learning.cybersyn.com. If you have a coworker or a friend that you feel would benefit from this public learning site, again, it's free. Refer them to learning.cybersyn.com. We'd appreciate it. And then obviously Cybersyn's community forum. Again, that's a great place to acquire information on the Cybersyn products, ask questions, look up answers to previously answered questions, as well as maybe put a vote on some future enhancements. And as always, if you have questions, reach out to cybersyn@team.com. And feel free, most of you know our personal email addresses as well. Feel free to reach out to our personal email. If you don't have it, you're not comfortable, reach out to team@cybersyn.com. We'll make certain to direct it to the appropriate person to answer that question. So with that said, let's go ahead and we're going to go into Q&A. So let me open up the questions panel here. All right, hold on a second, Seth. Yeah, Seth, this question's going to be for you. You ready? This is, how does remote support integrate with Configuration Manager?
All right, so that's a great question. So primarily the data that we've built remote support on at this time is built off of Configuration Manager's data. So we actually have a sync process that occurs in the background. This is all configured within the remote support settings. And that sync process utilizes WMI and the Configuration Manager SDK to access the Configuration Manager data sets that we need. We then access those data sets, pull that data back into our cache, and make it a queryable, which basically means that we can do all sorts of searches and other things against that data in a lot more efficient way. And this is how we display that data. This is how we bring out those OData endpoints for that. So we're really providing a lot of capability on top of what Configuration Manager already provides out of the box, just based on that. And that's just our sync process, just to get the sync in and bring the data in. On top, once you have that, then we have a number of commands that actually interface through the SDK directly with Configuration Manager to make changes or updates or deploy software. All of that working again through the SDK, so it's fully supported by Microsoft.
Perfect, thanks, Seth. Hey, I've got another one for you.
All right.
What's the difference between role-based access and entity scoping within remote support?
So role-based access has more to do with what features and functionality are both available and visible to you. So basically you're setting up a role, you're defining who's in that role, and then what functionality within the application that role has access to. With entity scoping, you're actually looking at adding queries, and this can still be based off of roles, but basically you're adding queries and defining those, assigning those queries to those roles. And that's how we determine what entities or objects in the database you have access to. So this is how you would define what your tier 1 analysts can see in terms of devices, users, etc., individually. And then from there, you could have, a different subset of entities of devices and users that are available and visible to, say, a tier 2 team. So basically, the differences are, one is the functionality that is available to you, and the other is the actual data sets that you can see or have access to.
Thank you, sir. We do have a few more questions, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So Seth and I are going to follow up on those questions via email. Again, we do have your email from the registration of this webinar. So don't fret none. We definitely will follow up with those questions. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, and look forward to seeing you at the next Cybersyn webinar. Thanks again, everyone, for attending, and have a great day.
Thanks.